Hi, welcome to One on the Page. I am Scott. This is a weekly reading wrap up for the 22nd through the 28th of April. Let's go and get started. Don't know how many books I read this week. I read a lot. I want to preface this because I haven't prefaced my comments the last few weeks. I'm retired. I was in the military for 20 years. I am technically a freelance writer, although I haven't published anything recently. So I do have the ability to read a lot. So my daughter kind of pointed out, like, people may not understand, especially this month when I am reading so much, uh, how I am able to read that much. I will also point out, as I pointed out before, I listen to audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks when I drive my kid to school. I drive my kid to school, drive back, go pick them up, drive back. And my kid's school is like 20 minutes away. So that's an hour and 20 minutes of listening to audiobooks, which I listen to at a higher speed. Plus, I also listen while I am doing things around the house. Plus, as I mentioned before, I am reading books that are pretty easy to read. And I'm procrastinating this month on quite a few things, which I'm slowly stopping that, but means I'm reading a lot of books. These are all sapphic romances that I'm reading. I think I'm getting close to reading all the sapphic romances that I would want to read, that are tolerable to me. There are a lot more that I haven't read, but I don't know how I would enjoy those. So we're going to go and get started. All of these are either audiobooks or on Kindle. Either I purchased them or most likely I got them on Kindle Unlimited. The first one is The Road to You by Harper Bliss. Catherine and Allie meet in college. Allie has a fling with her professor, and Catherine finds out about it. And there's basically a little bit of light-hearted blackmailing, because the reason Catherine finds out about it is she's gone to the professor's office to talk about her French grade, and she discovers them. So the two of them don't like each other, but they keep running into each other over the years, like past college. Catherine is pretty much a workaholic. Allie is a musician. She comes from a wealthy family. And they have friends in common at one point. Uh, Catherine sees Allie at a club. Uh, Catherine ends up hiring Allie as the entertainment for a Christmas party at one. Uh, and of course, they get closer. I have to be honest that I didn't particularly like Allie through a lot of this. Perhaps it's just that Allie had to grow up. I think it just took her a long time. I don't think that she ever particularly becomes a nice person. Catherine is your typical corporate work person. While I'm not that person, I understood her a lot more than Allie. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. The Queens of Crime by Sienna Waters. I've talked in the past about Sienna Waters. I read The Hotel Inspector by her, really disliked it. But I read something else by her, oh, The Wedding That Almost Wasn't, and it was good. Not great, it was good. So I was like, okay, I will give her another chance. I read, I believe it's the White Bridge series. It's a 3 books set in the village White Bridge. In American crime novelist Adelaide Park comes to England to try to work over her writer's block. And in Whitebridge, she meets bookstore owner Anthea Moore, or Ant. And I have to say, and this will come into play far more in other books. I'm not particularly fond of the village because I don't like a lot of the villagers. It's not that bad in this book because there's a few kooky people in this book, and it seems like with each book there's more kooky people. Uh, Adelaide is the kind of the ice queen thing, and I I wouldn't call Aunt Sunshine. She seems pretty quirky, I guess, at the beginning, but kind of isn't as much after. I like the two of them. This is where Sienna Waters kind of lulls me in. It's like, oh, this is an interesting dynamic between these two characters. It works. There is the almost prerequisite of people calling people idiots and people who don't have their own shit together telling other people what they're doing wrong in their life, which romance writers could stop that shit anytime soon. But the two main characters are fun. They work together. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 4 star. And then I read Teaching Hope, Sienna Waters, also Whitebridge, same village. Another one where an American, this time a teacher, does a swap and comes to teach in Whitebridge, although she is basically a high school teacher. And because of things that happen, she ends up teaching, I think, 6 or 7 year olds. And she's not really a child person. Um, that's the teacher Ava, and then she meets Hope, who is administrator at the school and also happens to be her next door neighbor. Uh, and they meet because Ava comes over because Hope's cat is taking dumps in Ava's yard. And this is one of the things which it didn't bother me really in this book, but it was like a precursor to things that would get worse. It's like apparently Ava is in the wrong for being upset that somebody else's cat was taking a dump in their yard. And I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, I understand it's a cat, but if it's your cat, it's your cat. I didn't understand the antagonism from Hope about this. I don't necessarily understand Hope's antagonism throughout the early part of this book. I'm like, I mean, Ava is supposed to be I wouldn't say ice queen, but I guess the cold person. And it's like, no, Hope is really the more mean person in this thing. Eventually, they grow closer together. It's another one where I do enjoy their interactions. I don't feel like the village plays too much of a part, which is a good thing. I give this a 4 star, although I do think it is not as good as the Queens of Crime. Then I read Sweat Equity by Monica McCallan. Avery is a co-founder of a lesbian dating app, and she gets a new roommate after a breakup. A roommate, Charlie Grant. She's a personal trainer. They don't get along well at first, and it's another one that's like, okay, Ava is down in the dumps, and she's not necessarily good with people, but Charlie really just gets too antagonistic too quickly from my feeling there, and I'm kind of like, I kind of feel Ava more on the side, and I don't know what it says about me that I feel more in tune with the grumpier character. But and it's not like I haven't encountered Sunshine, although Charlie isn't really Sunshine. But if you're looking at this as grumpy Sunshine, Charlie would be the Sunshine. it's not like I haven't enjoyed Sunshine characters in the past. There are many. Uh, Freddie in Colstead and Andy's one of my favorite ones. Honestly, throughout this book, Charlie is far more in the wrong than Ava, although everybody in the book doesn't act like that's the case. It's a Monica McCallan book. She can be pretty hit or miss. Have had some excellent books with her and some not good. This one's kind of in the middle a bit. Uh, I actually kind of like Ava. I kind of like how she handles a lot of stuff. I think an action that she does near the end of the book, people get really upset about, but I understood it, and all it took was somebody communicating with her about it, and it could have been handled. But I don't know. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Good Spin by Monica McCallan. Public relations expert Emery Bates has to go to a wedding and wants to bring a date. She asks her friend uh, Jordan to go with her. They've been neighbors for a little bit. Jordan just broke up with somebody recently, so they go to this wedding. They develop feelings for each other, but Emery is perhaps is not telling the whole story about why she felt she needed a date to this wedding. This could have been a really good, like, great book. I like Emery and Jordan together. I like the dual perspective thing. I think a lot of the reasons that I don't rank it as high as it could have been, even though I do give it a good ranking, is that there's one character in here who I will not talk about because I can't, if I talk about it, it spoils. This character is just so over the top, flat, stereotypical, eye rolling that it really drags it down. This character doesn't have a lot to do in the book, but is kind of a focus of the book in a way, kind of off stage. I'm going to give it a 4 star, but man, it could have been so much better if this character had been developed in some way, perhaps. Uh, Always More by Nicole Pyland. I have not read Nicole Pyland before. I'm going to be quite honest. Don't know if I'm going to read any more after this, but Always More. Everly Holman is hired as a sports psychologist for a volleyball team. She meets Wyatt Wicked, who is not only the star of the volleyball team, but pretty much the the volleyball player in American volleyball. And uh, they have met each other before, although briefly because uh, Everly used to be a volleyball player until injuries, and then she went into psychology. Uh, I gotta be quite honest with you. My biggest issue with this is one, Wyatt was a lot to take, but also, even more importantly, Everly is the team psychologist. Shouldn't be having a relationship with one of the players. And if she is having a relationship with one of the players, it shouldn't be known by other people in the team. And then just kind of like, okay, uh, the, the book kind of puts it across like it's frowned upon, but it's okay. It's like, no, it's not really okay. There's a lot of reasons it's not okay. I don't feel like the author did a very thorough job of researching psychology and psychologists and ethics. I do like the character of Everly. I understood her, but this one I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Also by Nicole Pyland is Crashing into Love. Drew Oakes is a snowboarder, and she lost her chance at an Olympic gold medal when another boarder crashed into her, taking her out of contention. Uh, that other person is Selma Driscoll. She's a Canadian snowboarder. She feels guilty about it. Uh, and Drew goes to a ski lodge basically that is run by Selma's family, although Drew doesn't know that Selma is involved with it. And it's actually not run by her family because her grandmother is ill, and it's actually Selma running it. And so this is like a few years later after this has happened, and basically Drew only has like one more chance for Olympic gold, and Selma is running this lodge, training for the Canadian team, and also has a child. So I don't know how Selma does this, but but the two of them grow closer, of course. And then there are obstacles in the way. Not so many obstacles. It's almost fairly straightforward. Obviously, having a child in the mix does have some possibilities of problems rising up. But I enjoyed this one. This was actually the first one I read of the Nicole Pyland books. I give it a 4 star. I don't think if I had started, because this is in her sports series uh, collection. I don't think if I had started earlier in sports series that I would have gotten to this one, because this one is the seventh book and I read it first. But if I had read A Shot at Gold by Nicole Pyland, which was number 2 in the sports series, I definitely wouldn't have gotten to book 7. Elliot Booker was a competitive archer. She has quit archery for a long time. Her coach passed away, and he was like a father figure to her. And after that, she stopped, just completely stopped, and became a lawyer. Madison Fletcher is 23, the next big thing in archery. She's supposed to go to the archery training thing because Elodie is supposed to be teaching there, but Elodie backs out. And then basically Madison bullies Elodie into training her. And Madison has a tragic backstory also. I don't enjoy books where one of the main character basically bullies the other one into loving them. Um, and that's kind of what this is. I didn't enjoy Madison at all. I don't think that relationship was good. I I I shouldn't have read Crashing into Love first because I might not have gotten to this book if that had been the first one I read. That one's 2.5 stars. Under a Under a Falling Star by Jae. Have read her previously. Enjoy your books. Don't enjoy the name. Don't enjoy the Madonna one name thing, but I'll get over it. Austin gets hired as an executive assistant at a toy company. She's working for I forget his name, but he's not one of the main characters. He is the brother of Dee, who works in the same company, but doesn't Austin doesn't really work for her, although technically she does. Austin basically gets kind of voluntold into decorating the Christmas tree. She does so, and then D, the COO, comes in to correct how the tree is decorated. In one of the decorations, a star falls on her, and Austin takes D to the hospital, not knowing that D is the COO, and they have sparks, and D doesn't tell Austin who she is, and then Austin stays with D because afraid of like concussion or stuff like that, and they share a kiss, and then the next day Austin finds out, and then it's bad. And of course D doesn't want to do anything because that wouldn't be correct for a CEO to get involved with an employee. And so there's a bit of a slow burn in this relationship. And it's really tricky when it's one of those ones where there's an imbalance of power type of thing. And I have encountered plenty of books where it's gone poorly. This one does it pretty well. I think this type of thing Jay does pretty well. I enjoy both these characters. I enjoy the relationship. I don't necessarily enjoy some of the secondary characters, and some of the secondary characters kind of stereotypical response to this. Uh, but I do like the book overall. I am going to give it a 4 star. All the Little Moments by G. Benson. Anna is an anesthetist. I pronounced that badly. She basically gets her brother's children after he and his wife died in a car accident. So, and she was not going to have children herself. So she ends up having to move, become a parent, loses her girlfriend because her girlfriend's like, I can't do this. Uh, Gets a new job. Then she meets a nurse, Lane, and they can get involved. But then there's also a custody hearing. I really like the relationship between Lane and Anna. I like the relationship between Anna and her friend Kim, uh, and Anna and the children. When you involve children in romance books, it can go poorly. I think this one was handled pretty well. I think it handled grief well. I think the whole custody battle thing was a little eh, but it didn't really take as much of the book as it could have. Lane had the possibility of being too good, a flawless character, but I think the author did a good job of pulling back just a bit, giving her some flaws, having her basically her have her own narrative, because this is one of the ones where it's romance, but the romance isn't necessarily the focus of the book. So it's Lane isn't a main character. She is a supporting character who just happens to be the romantic interest. But I can kind of see, even though she's not the main character, she has some main character energy. She has some main character flaws in life outside of just being there to serve the main character. 4 stars. The Good Governor by J.J. Arias. I have read Destination U by J.J. Arias, as well as Good News. And the Good Governor is part of the series, the Good Girls series, Goode. Basically, people who either are in good university or who have been good university. This is kind of typical of the series, where there's an older woman, this time the governor, Georgia uh, Fernandez, and a younger woman who challenges her, but I it's kind of formulaic, and I encounter another book in which this is kind of the same thing. The young woman is correct and the old woman is wrong. Well, not old woman, but the older woman. And I preferred Destination U, where both characters had flaws and strengths, and it doesn't feel like in this series that that's necessarily the same way. But the other character is Mila. Mila. She's an exotic dancer who gets hired as an intern to because of a controversy that wasn't really anything controversial. And so yeah, the two of them, they're fine, but I mean, George is a governor. I don't think it serves the book very well to make her seem foolish compared to this young woman. And I think you could have highlighted some of George's strengths in here. And they're there, but it's almost a little bit too late. 3.5 stars. In the Distance, There Is Light by Harper Bliss. This one is an interesting one because, okay, hear me out. Uh, Sophie's boyfriend dies in an accident. She and her partner's stepmother find comfort in each other because basically there are two people who have lost something with him. And Dolores, the stepmother, basically allows Sophie to stay at her house because Sophie feels like she can't go to the apartment that she and her boyfriend shared. And over months, she and Dolores get closer. They're comforting each other. They share a bed for months, just sleeping, but eventually they get closer, and there is the exploration of grief in here, and I think it's done very well. And it's a little bit interesting to contrast that with pretty much kind of the taboo subject, even though Dolores is not his mother. It's his stepmother. She was in a relationship with, is it Andy? I can't remember the guy's name, but with his biological mother who had died previous to the start of this book. So Dolores has faced the death of her her wife and her stepson, who is her son, looks at him as her son. And so she and Sophie start a relationship. And this could have gone so badly, but I think it did it pretty well. It's pretty interesting just to try to read that and in my mind do the whole, I guess, debate about it. You know, the two of them getting together. I don't even know if them being together is the right thing in the end or not. But it's definitely an interesting tale to get there. 4.5 stars. The third book in the White Bridge series, Played Again Man by Sienna Waters. All the kooky characters are here. All of them. Uh, Jules Hawthorne decides she needs to play piano because she has told her crush that she can play piano, that she can play a song. So she goes to Billy Brooke, who uh, was a resident of Whitebridge and then left and was doing music in Europe and stuff. And then she comes back for reasons that people don't really know and starts teaching. And so Jules goes to her. And this is where, whereas the other Whitebridge books, I thought were pretty good. This one is not because it kind of goes back to the hotel inspector where people act like an asshole to a character, and it's pretty much blatantly said at one point. Yes, they teased you and essentially bullied you, but you haven't really given them reason not to. So it's put the onus is on uh, Billy to get people to stop bullying her. And it's like, oh, they teased you. Okay, but they were talking shit about her behind her back, saying the same kind of stuff they said to her face. That's not teasing. That's you being a bitch. So I don't no I don't care for that. I don't like Jules. Jules sucks, even though she's one of the better characters of some of the other ones around here. This one just sucks shit. I don't think. I hope that I'm not going to fall back into Sienna Waters' uh, habit again. This was an awful book. 1.5 stars. Turbulence by EJ Noyes. I've read one book by her before. Isabel Rhodes is a stockbroker. She has a one night stand with a woman in Oklahoma while she's there meeting a client. She doesn't do one night stands, just instant attraction. It's like, well, I'm never going to see this woman again. And then the book ends. No, it turns out that that woman she had a one night stand with is the pilot of her corporate jet, which neither one of them knew at the time. And so she is her employer. Now, what I do like about this is that the whole can we do this kind of thing is touched upon and what has to be done with HR and everything. And it handles that very well. Uh, I like both of these characters. I like the relationship. I do think it got a little bit uh, kind of like, oh, just missed this. Oh, it's convenient that this happened so that this happened. And plus, Isabella's partner, that whole thing, or business partner, that kind of blew. But I really liked Isabella. I really like Audrey, the pilot. I like the relationship. I don't know how many we're just going to keep it casual. Oh, wow. I think we're not just able to keep it casual. We may be falling in love with each other, but we're not going to say it to each other, even though we think it. That's just for me reading a lot. So I'm probably the fuel gauge on that is getting pretty full and it's going to just ooze out the side of the car, but still a good book, 4 stars. The Red Files by Lee Winter, another Lee Winter's Lee Winter Ice Queen book, except this one is more of a thriller. The romance is pretty much secondary, and I don't think I like thrillers by romance writers. It's written very well. Lee Winter is apparently an investigative journalist or had been before. Does that very well, but there's just too much about the whole thriller part, less about the romance, and neither of these characters really do it for me the way. And I've given Lee Winter books 2 5 stars in the past. That it doesn't do it for me the way previous books have. It's not my thing. 3 star. Houseswap 101 by Jaime Clevenger. Uh, Devin Lancaster is a doctor uh, divorcing her husband. Her husband makes a house swap with Robbie, a kind of a co-worker of his, although they're in different states. He does a house swap with Robbie, doesn't tell his soon-to-be ex-wife, so Devin comes home and sees Robbie, a butch woman, doing a lot of repairs. Although when they first meet, Robbie is doing something very bad inadvertently, didn't mean to, but didn't know. So Devin is really upset about that. Uh, but Robbie starts doing all the things that the ex-husband was supposed to be doing, and Robbie and Devin grow closer. Uh, just cute. It was cute. That's a good thing. I didn't like the ex-husband. I think there could have been more explored there. But I enjoyed the relationship between the two of them. I do think that the inserting drama into it didn't work as well as it could have, but I still enjoyed it. 4 star. Uh, Handle with care, Michele L. Rivera. Uh, Quinn Geller is recently divorced. She meets a bartender, Theo. She sees Quinn having some disastrous dates, and basically says, I can do better. They start dating. Quinn has issues in her life besides her divorce, trust issues, a sick mom. Theo is younger. It just, this one seemed to drag out. It wasn't bad. It just didn't really work for me. I think it was like 350 pages, and I felt like it was 120. I felt like the relationship never got to the place that they seemed to think that it got to. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Chemistry by Rachael Sommers. Lily Cross is a new teacher at a school. She's bubbly. She encounters Dr. Eva Thomas, who is also a teacher at this school. She's not bubbly. She's an ice queen. And you got a little bit of You've Got Mail vibe to this, where two people are communicating with each other, don't know that the person they're communicating with and vibing with is the same person that they're not really getting along with at school, even though there's some tension there at school. Uh, it it was enjoyable. I like how there wasn't this long convoluted thing after one of them discovers who the other one is, that plays out as pretty much like, oh, wait a minute, that's you? Well, this is me. They took care of that pretty quickly. A little bit too much resistance. It's kind of like, I understand the need. I need to have some tension, but when you do the like, we're going to do this. No, we're not going to do this. We're going to do this. No, we're not going to do this. We did this. No, I have to pull back. You got to have a deft hand with it, and it wasn't bad here, but it could have been better. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Perspective by Monica McCallan. Campbell is a novel writer. Her novel is going to be made into a movie, which is going to star Sloane Murphy. Sloane and Campbell knew each other in school, although Campbell maybe knows a little bit more about Sloane than Sloane knows about Campbell. Uh, I just never really felt this. It The relationship never really worked. Another thing where other people are saying you're an idiot, you should do this, and people react to something without taking a moment to it, see what actually is happening. Uh, this is one of those ones where after the end of the book, that relationship is not lasting. No way, no how. 3 stars, no likey. The Love We Make by Harper Bliss. Another one set in Hollywood. Nora Levine is an actress. She's a very much an introvert, very much a recluse, pretty much. She has her people who have been her people, and they're like the only people she lets get close. But then the production company CEO, Mimi St. James, who comes in and has things her way, and then almost immediately pulls back and is like, "Oh, I didn't want you to think." It's like I don't know why they had her come in and like a bull in a china shop and then pull her back so quickly. But Nora is I think 51 and Mimi is 65, so this is a much older uh, romance than we're used to or I'm used to. I just never bought it. Nora's got so many issues, and I don't think by the end of the book that they really dealt with those issues. Not that I felt like the issues should have gone away, but I just don't feel like they dealt with the issues. I'm gonna give it a 3 star. The No Kiss Contract by Nan Campbell, Davy Duggan or Davina Davy is a corporate attorney, like the youngest partner in her firm, but she wants to go up higher. She basically feels that the way to do so is to be in a relationship because the law firm is very family based, except she happens to be a lesbian. So, I mean, I guess it's possible that you can be really like, you know, family values in a lesbian, but generally doesn't work that way. She also wants to get into her half sister's grades. That's Tally. Her father, I think Tally, I think is 14, and Davy is in early 30s. Also, Tally has another half sister, Anna. So both Davy and Anna are related to Tally. Davy and Anna are not related to each other. Davy's father and Anna's mom had Tally. They never married, so they're not even stepsisters. I'm prefacing this, you know why, because uh, Davy and Anna liked each other back then. After that, for reasons that get explored in the book, they did not like each other, but Davy feels that she has to have a fiance for this whole family value thing, so gets a contract with Anna, who needs things of her own, and basically they live together and pretend to be engaged. I liked their relationship. I don't know that I feel like the whole family values and everything that has to do with the law firm works. I don't enjoy the teenager who acts like a brat but knows just what to say at the right moment to get somebody to pull their head out of their ass type of thing. But still overall good. 4 stars. Uh, then 3 books by Georgia Beers. I believe it's called the Swizzle Stick series. It's a series about 3 cousins, the Martini cousins, and each book in the series has to do with each of the cousins. The first one, Shaken or Stirred. Julia Martini owns Martinis, has purchased it from her uncle. Uh, she's basically working there all the time. Doesn't have time for a relationship. Doesn't have time for pretty much anything else. But uh, one night she sees Savannah come in there, and they're like instantly attracted to each other, and they run into each other a few more times. Savannah comes to the bar a few more times. And eventually, Savannah asks her out on a date, and it's a pretty straightforward straightforward thing. Julia has her issues being a workaholic and family issues. Savannah pretty much does everything for everybody and get kind of a horrible family, I think. Uh, I will say, out of all the characters in these three books, I think Savannah's my favorite. This one was good, 4 stars. I'm going to be quite honest, I will say it again, but all three of these books are 4 stars. Although I think Shaken or Stirred was just a little bit better. But On the Rocks, Vanessa Martini is a teacher. She has a disruptive student in her class whose mother, Grace Chapman, she has to talk to. They don't get along at the beginning, and I honestly, this is a lot on Vanessa. I think it's kind of a little bit unprofessional, my opinion, but of course they are also attracted to each other. And Grace is getting divorced, which that's the reason her son is acting up. And they just keep running into each other again and again. It's like in the first one, Shaken or Stirred, Savannah and Julia basically meet at the bar, but Grace and Vanessa kind of meet all over the place. There's obviously the stuff about dating the parent of a child. I don't think that was really a big thing in here. I think the ex-husband uh, should have been a little bit more explored there. I think he should have been held more accountable there. Also, Grace's mother. Whoa, man, mothers in these lesbian romances sometimes suck. With a twist, Amelia Martini, she's the oldest of the cousins. She's 49. She's going through menopause. She divorced her wife a few years ago, and she can be a bit grumpy. I wouldn't call her a nice queen. I just a little grumpy. I mean, she's going through menopause. Leave her alone. Uh, and Kirby Dupree, mid 30s, a painter, owns her own painting company. She likes older women, so Amelia, who is retired, she did a government job, retired from that. She and her wife were going to basically travel around the world, and then her wife cheated on her. So she is retired. She's able to live as a retired person, like I do. But she also walks dog for, I mean, as a job, but basically to occupy herself. So they both go to a house where Amelia is basically dog sitting and house sitting. Kirby is doing painting jobs there, and a relationship evolves. One thing I like in here is that the side characters, like Julia, who was a main character in the first book, are not flawless because Julia doesn't really handle Amelia's menopause well. She's basically like, why are you doing this? And it's kind of like, it's nice to see the side characters are flawed, not just there to go like, oh, you're an idiot. Here's what you need to do for your relationship. Even though 2 books ago, I was not doing it right myself. There is some of that in here, but it's not as bad as other books. Again, another 4 star. Just a Touch Away by Jae. Hannah Martin is a professional cuddler. I I I understand that's actually something that exists. Hard for me to wrap my head around. Uh, Winter Sullivan is a workaholic. The two of them inherit a building from Winter's father if they can stay in the building for 92 days together under the same roof. And so it's basically the two of them living together for this period of time. Of course, romance happens. I really like the back and forth between them. Really, the reason that this doesn't get higher is because of Winter's sister, and honestly, Winter's father too. Even though he has died before this, he still has his handprint on everything. Just that family is unlikable. I'm gonna give it a 4 star though, because most of it is just Winter and Hannah in this room. Life in Bits by Harper Bliss and T.B. Markinson. Uh, Aline McKenna is a Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist. She has suffered a stroke. She's recovering from that. She's basically lost use of one of her arms and is in her hometown recovering from that, trying to work on her getting, strength and use of her arm back. She encounters Naomi Weaver. She's a much younger woman. I can't remember how much younger. 22 years, I think. Uh, and Naomi likes older women. Uh, Aline feels like a creep for liking a younger woman. I like the relationship. Another one where family is completely awful. God, I hate Eileen's mother. And even if there's like a moment of, I guess, catharsis at the end of the book, it's still too little too late for me. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 star. Good Deal by JJ Arias, Goode. This time it's a real estate agent, Carmela, and younger woman, Rhiannon Rodriguez. Uh, Rhiannon is not very ethical at the beginning of this book, and then it kind of like flips a switch. It's like okay, Carmela hates her because of this. Now that we've got that she hates her, now she's going to be a completely different person, kind of. That the whole flip switch thing kind of didn't work very well for me. The relationship otherwise does. If you just go, oh, somebody just switched who Rhiannon was somewhere in the middle. If you do that, then it's like, okay, sure. But if you're going like that person at the beginning is the same person even halfway through the book, it's like, I don't think so. But otherwise, it was good. I liked the two of them together. I just didn't like this flip switch. 4 stars. And A Trick of Light by Michele L. Rivera. Madison Turner saw an accident 6 months ago, and it kind of made her change her life. She was, well, I won't get into it, but she didn't cause the accident, but she saw the accident and she did some things during this accident that has made her kind of change her life. Uh, Spencer is an epileptic. Uh, so she feels like she has trouble forming relationships because people don't want to be with somebody who has epilepsy. And so she decides, even though she's not that type of person, to do the casual thing. Her doing the casual thing and then meeting Madison and kind of develop feelings for Madison, those two things come at odds for reasons I can't get into. Uh, there's a link between Madison and Spencer. There's a unrequited love in here that I maybe should have been expected, but I didn't expect it. Uh, Honestly, the book just didn't get as good as I was hoping it would. It was still pretty good. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Uh, and that is what I read this last week. My throat's pretty dry now. So please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will talk to you next time.